Hello everybody and welcome to another StarCraft 2 Supremacy Guide video. In this replay, we'll be going over a very common opener versus Protoss, a 1 Rax Marauder strategy. Let's go ahead and get started, and as always, do note the production tab in the top left and the timing in the bottom right to know what's being built and when. Now, there are 4 very nice things about this strategy. 1, we can be aggressive very early in the game. And 2, with that aggression, we can scout our opponent and see what unit composition he will be going for. 3, if our opponent is caught off guard, we'll be able to take the game very quickly if we are able to get up his ramp and do sufficient damage. And 4, it's actually a very flexible strategy in that we're able to back off, macro up, and be able to transition out of it fairly easily. Now with our 10th SCV, we can see that we're just going to be making a supply depot at our ramp because we will be blocking off, or starting a block off at least. And we can see that we have him rallied to, as soon as he is finished building, to go and scout, which is very important because if we're going to be aggressive early, we have to know where our opponent is to be able to do so. Now right at 12, we're going to be throwing down the barracks, maybe even a little earlier at 11. And following that, we are going to be getting our refinery. So everything is going to be a tiny bit earlier than we are used to. This is also, we can get concussive shells and marauders out very quickly. Now we're still scouting. We want to know where our opponent is so we can be aggressive and send our marauders there right away. And notice that as soon as our refinery finishes, we're going to send 2 more SCVs to be able to saturate that. In the meantime, we have produced 1 more SCV, so we are at a total of 13 supply. As soon as our barracks finishes, we're putting that tech lab down. And something a little odd for us, we're actually going to be getting our orbital command at 13, which is pretty early. But we're not going to be needing that many SCVs to be able to finance Marauders because they only cost 100 minerals, and we will have sufficient gas. So going for the orbital command is going to be because we're going to have excess minerals, and the mules are going to help our economy this early in the game for this strategy. Notice that we do get concussive shells right away, and our first Marauder is going to pick off this probe, so it doesn't know exactly what we're doing. It looks like he did expect for us to throw down another barracks or maybe a factory to tech, but now he does not know what we are going to be doing because we did kill that. In the meantime, it looks like our opponent is gearing up for a pretty normal defense, a zealot and a sentry. And even if our opponent does have a sentry or 2, do not be afraid to poke up, because just getting the sight on the ramp will allow us to attack with our marauders and do a significant amount of damage if we can micromanage our units correctly. In the meantime, we're getting SCVs and still building supply depots at crucial points where we will not supply block ourselves. Notice we still have this scouting SCV. It's very important to keep every unit alive, especially in strategies like this. And we are going to be using this actually, 1, to get vision, and then 2, be able to know what our opponent has so we're not rushing into anything. Right away, we were able to lure the zealot down, and we actually were able to take it out. And our opponent actually force fielded a little high, so we're able to come up, get vision, and take out a stalker very nicely. And also this sentry. Now notice our opponent isn't pulling back his units, which is actually smart because he'd just be wasting time that he could be attacking, because concussive shells is so effective in slowing down Protoss units. Now it's very common for our opponent to pull his probes, and we'll see this a lot. Well, we're just going to back up a little bit, wait for a couple reinforcements, and then we're going to head up before our opponent can get another sentry out, because we don't want to be blocked out of his base for too long. You can see he's throwing down gateways in response. And just doing a little bit of stutter step micro will allow us to get the maximum amount of hits in with the least amount of damage taken. In the meantime, we actually have thrown down a couple more barracks. We did this just about as soon as we started attacking here, so good macro management is going to be crucial if we are going to follow this up later in the game and try to transition out of this, because notice we do have a good economy and we're getting many more minerals a minute more than our opponent. You can see that our opponent still has probes off the line, and we are just picking them off, and he is not really able to get a sufficient amount of defenses out for the very few amount of Marauders and now Marines that are coming into his base. He still is producing Stalkers, which is probably the smartest thing, because Zealots would be very hard to micro against the slow concussive shells of the Marauders. And Stalkers probably do the most damage as well and are the most mobile. And as soon as our concussive shells were done and we had sufficient resources, we did go ahead and get Stimpak, which is now finished and will allow us to be even more mobile and take down aggressive units more quickly. Once again, our opponent is pulling probes for maybe the 4th time, and by now his economy really is suffering, and there doesn't seem to be much hope for him now. And with a little bit of micro magic, we are able to keep just about all of our units alive, and our opponent will call good game. So as we can see, this strategy definitely is very effective early in the game if we can take hold of our opponent and catch him off guard. So hopefully you all can incorporate this into your play and increase your win rate. This is StarCraft 2 Supremacy Guide Videos signing out.